Vishnu Bhakti Radhe Deve Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Vrinai Hai Tosidevai Priyai Keshavashacha Vishnu Bhakti Radhe Deve Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Jai, Tulsi Maharani, Jai. Okay. Okay. I'd like to welcome to the new devotees, our team Padam. They came from the country of Melbourne.
Melbourne is a superior city.
What's that?
Melbourne is a superior city.
Why is it superior?
Oh, it just looks so much better than Sydney.
What about Delhi?
Oh, I haven't been there in a while, so I can't remember.
All right. Hey, Krishna. Give you a free skydiving.
Yes, please. Oh, thank you.
When you're 35.
Oh, 35, that's so old. 15.
What's that?
15.
50. Okay, 50.
No. 1 5. 1 5.
150.
It's too risky. Why
What's
should
life
we
without risks?
Why should we risk our lives for no purpose? I mean, we can risk for preaching.
What's risk? What's life without risk?
Not this one.
Okay. Uh-oh. Another one. Flowers from Melbourne. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya also Tana Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Brahman Say Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Weda Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuranam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nava Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatate Jatarani. So Om Gana Timadandasha Gananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are continuing with our study of the Sri Caitanya caritamrta. We're on the 5th chapter of the Antya Lila, and this deals with the talks between Ramananda Roy and Prajuna Mishra and Ramananda Roy and Prajuna Mishra and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what happened previously in this chapter is that Prajuna Mishra wanted to hear from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the very intimate topics of Radha and Krishna, especially the topics that were discussed at Vijayanagara. Vijayanagara is the place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Ramananda Roy. And so Lord Chaitanya said, you better hear from Ramananda Roy. So he sent Prajuna Mishra to Ramananda Roy, and Prajuna Mishra had to wait in Ramananda Roy's waiting room while Ramananda Roy was doing something very unusual. He was teaching the Deva Dasis how to dance. Now, for those of you who weren't here yesterday, Deva Dasis are the lady dancers in the temples in India. And traditionally, they wouldn't get married. They would actually just be completely devoted to serving the deities. And their dancing would be just for the deities. It wasn't be a public performance. In this way, it was a very chaste arrangement. So that was the Devadasis. And so nowadays, of course, the Devadasis are pretty much discouraged in the temples because it became something akin to prostitution after some time. So it pretty much, in some temples they still have it. Like in Jagannath Temple, in Jagannath Puri, they still have it. But in some temples, they prohibit it because it wasn't considered so reputable. So, anyway, Ramananda Roy was teaching the Devadasis how to dance and how to express everything with their eyes, and even he cleaned their bodies himself. He's a man, of course, externally a man, so he was cleansing their bodies, he was showing them eye movements, showing them how to move their hands, and of course, that is something that is prohibited for a man to do with young girls, or with any girls, or old girls even. It's just prohibited. I mean, it just doesn't matter whether one is a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas. That sort of intimate, close connection like that is prohibited. It's not that a grahastha has a license to do whatever he wants because he's married. He has a limited license. Just like sometimes people probably will talk about how a grahastha has a license for sense gratification. Well, it's a license, but it's a limited license, just like someone who learns how to drive. What do they have? An L.
L. Yeah.
They have an L. So they can't drive more than 80 kilometers an hour. Can't drive at night or something?
Yeah, yes.
Can't drive at night and everything. So all of us actually are given limited licenses for sense gratification, not unlimited license. The only person with an unlimited license for sense gratification is who? Does anyone know? Krishna, he has an unlimited license. He could drive at any speed, any time of the day or night, on either side of the road. He can drive on the sidewalk if he wants, because he's God. So the rest of us have limited licenses. So Ramananda Roy was doing something that really was, in one sense, against Varnashram Dharma. So what is the explanation for that? I mean, and of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining to Pradyumna Mishra that, as we're going to hear, that Ramananda Roy, and Chaitanya Charitamrta previously explained this, that Ramananda Roy was identifying himself as who he actually was, or is, and that is Vishaka Gopi. So he's actually a Gopi. So we made the point yesterday that even if one is a Gopi, and I haven't run into too many of those recently, even if one is a Gopi, still one acts externally like a regular person. Let's say a man is a Gopi, because we're not these bodies. People with male bodies can be Gopis in the spiritual world, and people with female bodies can be coward boys or older persons in the spiritual world. So it doesn't really have any connection. Whatever body we have doesn't have any connection with who we are in the spiritual world. Also, as far as initiation is concerned, it's not that you get a name that's your eternal name in the spiritual world. Some people are thinking like that. Oh, I got the name of Gopi Dasi, so I must be a Gopi. I got the name of Radharani, I must be Radharani's assistant. No, you may be a blade of grass, for all I know. So anyway, so we don't change the external body to fit our conception of who we are in the spiritual world. That's called sahaja, where we do change the external body. Like if a man, we mentioned this the other day, but not all of you were there. Sometimes you'll see the men in Vrindavan wearing lipstick and earrings, and they have hair and saris, and it's not a good-looking gopi. Pretty bad-looking gopi. And that's not how you realize your spiritual identity. You don't dress like who you are in the spiritual world, even if you have realized it. If you have realized it, then you act very humbly, like you're a sadhaka. So in the case of Ramananda Roy, this is a very unique situation, that he was doing something that's against Varnashram Dharma, that's against basically all the rules and regulations, but he's on a different level, and we should not imitate the great personalities, just like we should not imitate Lord Shiva and drink an ocean of poison. If you can drink an ocean of poison, you can imitate Lord Shiva. That's all right. Or if you can lift a hill, Govardhan Hill, or even if you can lift this house, forget about the hill. If you can lift this house, then you can have a lot of girlfriends and dance at night. So that we'll have a test afterwards who can lift this house, even though you may see all these like Superman and everything, right? Kana?
Maybe I'll go like all Spider-Man for some help or something.
So unless you can actually do these things, then you should not imitate the Ishwaras or the controllers. So don't think, oh, that's a good example of Ramananda Roy. Let me just teach all the Devi Dasis how to dance. One should be very careful. Men and women who are not married should be very careful in dealing with each other. It's really important. Not only sannyasis, not only brahmacharis, not only vanaprasthas. There's always a danger there for conditioned souls. Anyway, so on that happy note, let's go on to the Caitanya Charitamrta, 5th chapter. We're reading from text 33. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay, text 33. Aradina Mishra Ila Prabhu Vidyamane Prabhu Kahe Krishna Kata Shunila Rayastane. Okay. The next day, when Prajuna Mishra arrived in the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord inquired, "Have you heard talks about Krishna from Sri Ramananda Roy?" Tabe Mishra Ramanandera Ritanda Kahila Shuni Mahaprabhu Tabe Kahite Lagila. Prajuna Mishra thereupon described the activities of Sri Ramananda Roy. After hearing about these activities, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to speak. Amita Sanyasi Apanare Virakta Karimane Darshana Rahudure Prakritira Nama Yadi Shune Tabahin Vikarapaya Mora Tanu Manha Prakriti Darshane Stira Hayakon Janha. I am a sannyasi, he said, and I certainly consider myself renounced. But what to speak of seeing a woman, even if I hear the name of a woman, I feel changes in my mind and body. Therefore, who would remain unmoved by the sight of a woman? It is very difficult. Ramananda Rayera Katashuna Sara Jana Kahibara Katanahi Yaha Ascharya Katana. Everyone, please hear these topics about Ramananda Roy, although they are so wonderful and uncommon that they should not be spoken. Ekadeva Dasi Hara Sundari Taruni Tara Saba Anga Seva Karena Apane. The two professional dancing girls are beautiful and youthful, yet Sri Ramananda Roy personally massages their entire bodies with oil. Snanadi Karaya Paraya Vasa Vibhushana Guyangera Hayataha Darshana Sparshana. He personally bathes and dresses them and decorates them with ornaments. In this way, he naturally sees and touches the private parts of their bodies. Tabunir Vikara Raya Ramananda Mana Nana Bhavod Kara Tara Karaya Sikshana. Nevertheless, the mind of Sri Ramananda Roy never changes, although he teaches the girls how to physically express all the transformations of emotions. Nirvikara Deha Mana Kasta Pashana Sama Ascharya Taruni Sparshe Nivikara Mana. His mind is as steady as wood or stone. Indeed, it is wonderful that even when he touches such young girls, his mind never changes. Eka Ramanandera Haya Adikara Tate Janiya Prakrita Deha Tanhara. The authority for such acts is the prerogative of Ramananda Roy alone, for I can understand that his body is not material, but has been completely transformed into spiritual. Whoops, I said a little bit too far. To a spiritual entity. Tahara manera bhavatena jane matra taha jani pariyara twitiya nahi patra. He alone and no one else can understand the position of his mind. Kintu shastra drishje ekakari anumana Shri Bhagavata Shastra tahate pramana. But I can make a guess in terms of directions from the Shastra. The Vedic scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, gives the direct evidence in this matter. So, this is a Sanskrit verse from the Bhagavatam. Rajavadu Sange Krishnera Rasadi Vilasa Ye Janakaye June Kariya Vishvasa Ridroga Kama Tanra Tatkale Hayachya Tina Gunak Shobanahe Mahadira Hoya. When one hears or describes with great faith the pastimes of Lord Krishna, such as his rasa dance with the gopis, the disease of lusty desires in the heart and the agitation caused by the three modes of material nature are immediately nullified, and he becomes sober and silent. So, this is Prabhupada's commentary. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection, any person seriously inclined to hear about the pastimes of Krishna's rasa dance, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, with great faith and a transcendentally inspired mind, is immediately freed from the natural lusty desires found within the heart of a materialistic man. Oh, you don't go with it. I hope not. So, so here actually there's necessary points here. It's not simply hearing about Krishna's rasa dance, but hearing about Krishna's rasa dance with hearing about Krishna's rasa dance with great faith. Great faith means simply believing that doing what Krishna wants, everything will be accomplished, and a transcendently spiritually inspired mind. So these are the two necessary ingredients. So it's not that you just hear about Krishna's rasa dance. Like Prabhupada said, that if you simply concentrate on Krishna's rasa dance or the intimate exchanges between Krishna and the gopis, and you're not qualified and you don't hear them from a right person, at that time, instead of becoming free from lust, you become full of lust. Instead of purified, you become putrefied. Putrefied is something that happens when something rots. Okay, so one has to be very careful. When it purifies, when we read the Bhagavatam, we have to start with the first canto and work our way up to the 10th canto. And of course, before the Bhagavatam, we have to read Bhagavad Gita and Upadeshamrita and other literatures. When a pure Vaishnava speaks on Srimad Bhagavatam and another pure Vaishnava hears Srimad Bhagavatam, from such a realized soul, both of them live in the transcendental world, where the contamination of the modes of material nature cannot touch them. Freed from the contamination of the modes of nature, the speaker and hearer are fixed in a transcendental mentality, knowing that their position on the transcendental platform is to serve the Supreme Lord. The class of men known as the prakrita sahajias, these people take it cheaply, who consider the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna something like the behavior between a man and a woman in the material field, artificially think that hearing the Rasa Lila will help them by diminishing the lusty desires of their diseased hearts. But because they do not follow the regulated principles, but instead violate even ordinary morals, their contemplation of Rasa Lila is a futile attempt, which sometimes results in their imitating the dealings of the gopis and Lord Krishna. To forbid such habits of the prakrita sahajas, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that was mine. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has excluded their material intelligence by using the word vishwasa, faith. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-30, Srila Shukadeva Goswami says, Naitat samacharej chararyej jatu manas sapi yanishvaraha vinasyacha charan amanyadyata rudro vidijam visham. Certainly one who is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead should never even within his mind imitate the activities of the transcendental Rasa Lila of Krishna. If out of ignorance one does so, he will be destroyed just as if he were to imitate Lord Shiva, the same example I just gave, who drank poison produced from the ocean. Ujjala Madhura Prema Bhakti Sevaya Anande Krishna Madhurye Vihare Sadaya. Tasting transcendental effulgence, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna, such a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day in the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So that's a devotee. Internally, the devotee is enjoying. Externally, the devotee is acting like a sadhaka. And as we mentioned yesterday, in this material world, we have to do things every day, the same things basically every day. Wake up, take a bath, do our laundry. It's like that movie. What is the movie I mentioned yesterday? Does anyone remember?
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yeah. Oh, you've seen the movie.
I've seen the movie. Sorry, I wasn't here.
Another great devotee. So it's like it's like so repetitious, the material world becomes boring, so therefore we have to go in an airplane, fly to Singapore or something like that.
Go skydiving.
What?
Go skydiving.
Go skydiving. Yeah. Yeah, skydiving, because we need some like stimulation. Because our ordinary actually you're proving my point. We need some endorphins and things like that. You know what endorphins are. We need stimulation because our ordinary life is so boring. You get up and it's the same house and the same mother and father, right? Keshav? Keshav? Boring, isn't it?
Yes. Life is very boring.
And then you have to walk all the way down the stairs to get something to eat. And up the stairs again.
Too big.
The refrigerator should just be by the bed. You know. Right?
That's what he says all the time.
I know he says that. So, because the material world is ultimately boring, that's why you have to engage in boga tiyaga. You know, to enjoy eating, you have to stop eating for some time. Just like, you know, every day I've been enjoying eating and they've been feeding me like anything. So this morning I'm not going to eat breakfast so I can enjoy later in the day. Because I know about Caitanya has a big meal for me today. So it's like that. Sometimes you have to renounce, and just like, you know, you go to work and then the weekend comes. What do they say? Thank God it's Friday. You have that expression? TGIF. And then what is Monday called?
Monday-itis, Monday blues.
Monday-itis, Monday blues, like that. But actually, the real thing is you're tired of the weekend. And you're at, I mean, the real point is many people, they want to get back to work because they're just with their family all weekend. Taking the kids to the soccer games and everything like that. So let's get back to work. And then at work, they're thinking, let's get back to the weekend. And then they're looking forward to the holidays, so they go to the Gold Coast. And they go to the Gold Coast, and they go bungee jumping. They're bungee jumping to the Gold Coast. I've seen it. I haven't done it. I've seen it. And so they go to the Gold Coast. They spend some money renting a hotel room with 1,000 other people. And they just walk around at night, see all the sights in the Gold Coast. Yeah, I've been there, so I know. And then, where else do they go?
Theme park. Beaches.
The beaches.
Disneyland.
Because their life is just so boring, or isn't it? They have to go have stimulation. It's all the time stimulation. But a devotee is always stimulated internally because he or she is experiencing Krishna's pastime. So there's no question of, you know, I have to go somewhere else for enjoyment. Like, you know, first time I came to Sydney, they said, well, we can take you to the Harbor Bridge. I said, what for? They said, well, we'll sponsor you. You can climb the bridge. I said, what's for? It's a boring experience. And then when I go to the UK, they said, we can take you to see Big Ben. You know what Big Ben is?
Yeah.
And I said, what's the use of a clock? I have a watch. And there's the Eiffel Tower when I go to Paris. What's the use? It's all boring. And we're just trying to, you know, fill our time in this earth, you know, because we're extremely bored with everything. Isn't that Keshav? He agrees with me, see? We're extremely bored and trying to get some little stimulation here and there, you know. Go to an exciting movie, go to a Star Wars movie or something like that. Get stimulated. And then after we're stimulated, we're depressed. You know, I remember when I used to distribute Prabhupada's books at theaters. You know, so people go into the theater, they're actually really happy, willing to give money, willing to take a book, and they walk out. They're extremely angry. It's dangerous. We tried even that at Disney World, Disney World in Florida. So we distribute books going in there. Of course, eventually Mickey Mouse arrested us, but anyway, that's yeah. They have the police are actually in the mouse costumes.
Wow.
You never know. You just think it's some cute little mouse. So we go into Disney. We were at the door of Disneyland, parking lot, and people were real excited. The kids were just, wow, Disney, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and then they come out, and the parents are saying to the kids, "Shut up, kid!" The kids are cranky.
I don't want to leave.
What?
Kids are like, I don't want to leave.
Yeah. Well, when they're on their way out, they're just, and then when they're in there, they're saying, "Can you get us those waffles?" They're just like demanding. So it's just a question of trying to go from one stimulating thing to another, and so one has an internal life. Then what's described here is true, that a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day in the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. Then you're not looking for external things or thinking of going somewhere to enjoy yourselves. It's interesting. Okay. So I understand you all have to go places to enjoy yourselves. It's all right. But when one's on the spiritual platform, it's not like that. Just like, sometimes, I talk to people. We're in our temple in North Carolina. We're about an hour and a half away from the beach. So they just drive to the beach to see the beach and drive it back an hour and a half. And I said, it's 3 hours of driving just to see the beach? Or I have a disciple who spent thousands and thousands of dollars just to see the glaciers, or the icebergs in Alaska. He went on a cruise ship just to see the icebergs. I just take a glass of water, put an ice cube in it, and look at it real closely. It looks exactly the same as an iceberg. Or just buy some National Geographic magazines or something. Netflix.
Google pictures.
Yeah, so what is the use? I mean, and then people trying for that happiness, but you can't keep that happiness, even though there's temporary happiness or relief, but you can't take it back with you. I mean, you have a photographic album, or nowadays, of course, you keep it on your phone or something like that. This is me in front of Big Ben. This is me. Everyone likes these selfies now. This is me and my wife in front of Radha Damodar. That's why in the temples in Vrindavan they say no pictures. Not because they don't want people taking care of the deities in most cases, but people want 2 selfies in front of the deities. You see, now there's selfies, all these selfies. Me and my guru. I get that all the time. So, anyway, sorry about all that renunciation preaching. So let's go on to the next verse. Vikridatam braja vadubhiridam cha Vishno Shradanvito nu shrunuyad atavanayadya bhaktim param bhagavati patilabhya kamam rid arogam ashvapa hinot yachirena tiraha. A transcendentally sober person who with faith and love continuously hears from a realized soul about the activities of Lord Krishna in his rasa dance with the gopis, or one who describes such activities, can attain full transcendental devotional service to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus lusty material desires, which are the heart disease of all materialistic persons, are for him quickly and completely vanquished. So all the activities of Lord Krishna are transcendental as a purport, and the gopis are also transcendently situated. Therefore, if the activities of the gopis and Lord Krishna are seriously understood, will certainly free one from material attachment. Then there is no possibility that lusty material desires will awaken. But it's a very high stage of devotional service. Ye shune ye pade kanapala itadrishi se bhava vishta ye se vyaharnishi tanrapalaki kahimu kahane nayaya nityasida se prayasida tanra kaya. If a transcendentally situated person following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami hears and speaks about the Rasa Leela dance of Krishna and is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna while serving the Lord day and night within his mind, what shall I say about the result? It is so spiritually exalted that it cannot be expressed in words. Such a person is an eternally liberated associate of the Lord, and his body is completely spiritualized. Although he is visible to materialize, he is spiritually situated, and all of his activities are spiritual. By the will of Krishna, such a devotee is understood to possess a spiritual body. Just one more verse. Raga nugamarge jani rayera bhajana siddha deha tulya tate prakrita nahi mana. Srila Ramananda Roy is situated on the path of spontaneous love of God. Therefore, he is in his spiritual body, and his mind is not materially affected. So we'll end here for today. We'll take questions first from the people here, the devotees here. Let me just unmute everybody, or allow people to unmute. So, who has questions? Questions? Yes. Chaitanya, go.
So do that, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chose Ramananda Rai to listen from him because of he being Sudra, right? Just to establish that he is Sudra's not like
Either your mask should be on or off.
Yeah.
But when it's half on, you can't really hear anything.
Okay.
So either take it off or put it on. But
because I have a tiny face, it just goes down.
I know.
So I wanted to say, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Ramananda Rai to listen from him, just to establish that it's not the birth but the qualification. So Ramananda Rai being Sutra, so I wanted to know, how was Ramananda Rai being born as a Sutra?
I was born in a Kayasta family in Bengal. Kayasta is actually like a mercantile family. But according to the tradition, it's considered a Shudra family. So he wasn't born... Well, I don't even want to talk about castes or anything like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Shudra families or Brahmin families or Vaishya families. I mean, generally, the kids take after the parents. Generally, the daughter takes after the father. This is a general point. And the son takes after the mother. Keshav. Yes. You'll see later on in life. It's just generally, genetically, it's usually the case. And Prabhupada said, I mean, there are exceptions. So I'm not very much interested in birth, who. But generally, people follow in their father's or mother's footsteps as far as their occupation. Generally, it is a case. Whether it's due to genetics or whether it's due to example, it generally occurs. But isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you see that. So, in Ramananda Roy's case, he was born in a mercantile family, which is considered Shudra. That's all. But even if he had been born in a Bungi family, let's say, and Haridas Thakur was certainly born in something considered less than a Bungi family. He was born in a Muslim family, and yet he was named the Namacharya. So, birth is actually inconsequential. It's not very important.
It's the qualification.
It's the qualification. Guna karma vibhagasha, as Krishna says in the Gita. Chaturvarna maya shishtam. Guna karma vibhagasha. Someone's quality and the work that they're attracted to. So if someone's attracted to Shudra work, but we don't want to designate people Shudras. Everyone's a Vaishnava, and everyone should be a Vaishnava, but everyone should be a Vaishnava, and everyone should just work according to their natural propensities. We don't want to start designating people. I mean, it's too crazy. But we understand varnashram so we can assign certain activities to people. That's why it's important to understand varnashram. Like, let's say if you have an inclination towards sewing and handwork, then we'll give you an occupation that's generally like that of a Shudra, but you're not a Shudra. Or if you have an inclination to make money, then you should be doing business. Nothing wrong with that. But it's not that you're a Vaishya, but it's the inclinations have to be identified to facilitate and encourage people to take up appropriate occupations. You put a square peg in a round hole, a round peg in a square hole, it just doesn't work. Like if you put me, for example, if you asked me to do sewing, even for the deities, which I love the deities, I would go crazy after about 2 days. Put me in a sewing machine. I could do it for an hour, but for 2 days, a whole week of just sewing clothes, oh, I would go skydiving after that. I just grabbed Keshav and we would go skydiving together and tell his parents that we're just going to chant japa or something.
We'll do that in North Carolina.
All right, yeah.
It's a psychophysical nature of person.
Yeah, the whole point is identifying the psychophysical nature
North Carolina.
and engaging them accordingly. So we have to understand our nature. It doesn't make me less or more than anyone else because I like to do other things other than sewing. Sewing is fantastic. It's for the deities, a completely wonderful thing. Drawing pictures is, painting pictures is fantastic. But if you ask me to paint a picture, it'll be a disaster. I don't have the patience to do that. Because I know, like, decorating my deities in the morning requires a lot of patience. I can do that. But if you ask me, to draw a whole painting and just each detail, I would follow in the footsteps of this one person called Rothko. I don't know if you know him. You ever heard of him? What does he do in his paintings? He just throws the paint at the canvas.
Abstract one, yeah. They call it abstract painting.
Abstract, yeah.
painting. Anyone can do.
And he can sell each and every one of his paintings for like $10 million.
Yes.
I would just go to your building supply store and buy some paint.
Yeah. You get a kid to throw it.
And Keshav and I would just throw paint. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
That would be fun.
And then sell it and buy a new house.
Small house.
A small house. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, Gurudev. Just with Ramanandam Ryan, his activities, of course, they're intimate and we should imitate that. But just to, we understand obviously he's, Vishaka Devi, but when this was happening, is there any information on how such activities were received in the community? Is there information on that?
Yeah, I don't have any information about that. I think in general it was something that was really private.
Right.
It's not like nowadays you have the internet,
It goes around. What's happening?
It would be all over the world, Prajuna Mishra would get on Twitter or something like that and just send a tweet out. I really don't think it would be, it was something public, because it'd be too controversial.
Sir, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is having the Mishra to teach him lesson or something?
Yeah, to teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
Teach him a lesson about Varnashram, that one shouldn't judge a Vaishnava according to their caste. To teach him a lesson about what a really advanced devotee is, like that. Like that. Don't judge people by their external activities. Yep. All right, yeah.
Gurudev, on the same topic, at that time we don't know. So right now also there are some people who does that kind of activities, and then they get arrested and all these things.
Yeah, I would arrest them.
But how do we identify them? Is there any way to identify? because if I'm a mundane person, by looking at Ramananda,
Yeah, well, that was a specific instance. Ramananda Roy was Vishaka.
yeah.
Lord Chaitanya is God. He's there. I think anytime you'll see someone doing that today, it's wrong. I think 100% of the time. You know, unless you got God there and Vishaka and Lalita, Swarup Damodar Goswami, I mean, I just don't really think any instance of that would be acceptable today.
Yeah, because many people, they go crazy on, they follow them and all of this, and then they end up in jail.
Yeah. Well, they should go to jail. They should go to jail. That's abuse. That's abuse. I mean, obviously, we don't imitate. This is a very specific instance. Vishaka doesn't appear very often. If someone says they're Vishaka, we should just beat them with shoes or something like that, is probably what we'll often say. Yeah. So, yeah. It's not that we're thinking, oh, I better not commit offenses. This person may be on that level. No. The person's not on the level. Stay away from them.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly says that, like, even he can't do it where Ramananda Rai can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't. No.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Because people prey on the emotions,
Yeah.
and the so-called swamis and gurus sometimes appear and they claim to be God or part of God or something, and then people start following them and they walk that line: do I offend or do I not? And that's
Yeah, one is very careful and superstitious in such a
that's
situation.
it.
So just stay away from them. Unless you can correct it, there's no question of, you don't need to go around offending people. I mean, you just don't need to. Like Prabhupada said that when we're dealing with people who are preaching or doing something bogus, don't mention the name. You just make them more famous. What you do is you just say, what is their philosophy? And you deal with their philosophy. So, well, their philosophy is, I'm God. And then Prabhupada would defeat that particular philosophy. All right, good point. All right, and there's one comment online. Oh, glories to Prabhupada. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that a bogey is better than an impersonalist chagi. That's true. In other words, rather than be an impersonalist, better you go to Disney World. So, we have to understand what level we're at. Actually, we talked about this yesterday, that everybody has a quota of sense gratification or license for sense gratification. So, it's like salt. We mentioned this yesterday. It's like salt in the vegetable. If you have too little, it's tasteless. Too much, you get sick and high blood pressure. So everybody has to understand a modicum of sense pleasure. But I was making the point of this Bogatiaga stuff where we're just thinking that there's going to be, it's like the carrot in front of the donkey. Just thinking that there's going to be something there, some juice there. Or, as Prahlad Maharaj says, punak purnas charvita charvananam, chewing they already chewed. It's like taking some bubble gum. I don't know if any of you have chewed bubble gum before. I did when I was young. Actually, it was quite common when I was young. You'd blow bubbles. And sometimes it get all over the hair, explode. But it's like chewing bubble gum and then there's no more sugar left. And you just put it back in your mouth and keep chewing. What happened with the sugar. So, anyway, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from going to Disney World. I went with Jayapataka Maharaj one time.
Wow.
But we had a good excuse.
It wasn't the rights.
No, he wanted to see what was going on for Mayapur, to set up some rides, spiritual rides in Mayapur. So we were both in Orlando, and I said, let's go. I said to him, as long as you pay, I'm going. So there were two sannyasis together, going around all the rides.
Sannyasi robes?
What? No.
No
No.
robes.
That would have been really embarrassing. Western clothes and a hat. Two sannyasis going on rides, and he had his little clicker there. And he said, well, I did 64 rounds today. Sometimes you're sitting, because you have to stand on line for hours sometimes there. they make the lines hidden, so you can't see how long it is because it snakes around, and it's just like the material world. You can't see how long you're gonna have to wait for enjoyment, and it just snakes around, snakes around. Oh my God, you get around one corner. Oh no, it continues. So there's plenty of opportunity for chanting the holy names. Anyway, so we went on all these rides. We had a good time, and we had bought each other ice cream cones. I know. We didn't. We not just joking. So
Which one is better, Gurudev? The one in Florida or one in Anaheim?
one in Florida is better because there's more property.
So next time I'm going there.
But you have to come visit us too. Okay, on that happy note, I think, any other questions? Let's see. Who else? Oh yeah, that was Pran Govinda's statement. Yes, Pran Govinda. So Pran Govinda is my regional secretary in Florida. So Pran Govinda and New Orleans. So Pran Govinda, next time I'm there, we can go. I'm in Florida. We can go to Disney World together. Pran Govinda is my regional secretary. He's a cousin of Bhakti True Maharaj, and he's a sannyas candidate this year.
When is
And-
sannyas? 2 years over.
And he's my regional secretary, actually probably the next GBC after I retire, for Florida and New Orleans and New Taliban, part of Southeast United States. He's a nice guy. He tolerates me. Okay. But he comes from Bengal originally. And really, really nice devotee. I'm fortunate to have his association. Okay, so we don't have time for any other questions, so thank you all. We'll go offline.